This is 91.3 FM WCUW in Worcester, Massachusetts, with a live recorded, please no phone calls, interview with the creators of the phenomenal documentary Unearthed and Untold, The Path to Pet Sematary. I'm here in the studio with Justin and John, who are going to be talking with us about their process of how they got this great little film, this great little documentary together that they've been working on for the last 2 years. It all originated due to a poster.
Sure did.
Yeah, so I went to Monster Mania in 2011, and I met the cast, Denise Crosby and Andrew Hubestek and Miko Hughes and Brad Greenquist and Dale Midkiff. And
who did Andrew Busek play?
Zelda.
Okay.
And they all signed my poster, and I had been looking forward to meeting them all summer. Pet Sematary has always been a favorite of mine, and then I showed Justin the poster, and I'll let him tell you his reaction.
Yeah, well, no, it was just one of just amazement. I didn't realize, even being a horror fan, that they actually were doing conventions. So to see all these signatures on this poster, it was pretty wild. So that's when we decided to make our first pilgrimage up to Maine to check out the filming locations.
Well, I think Denise had always been involved in conventions. Out of everybody in that whole group, other than I think the one person who had been involved in convention scene more than anyone else was Denise, because of Star Trek.
Sure.
But even people I met who I know who have met her at Star Trek conventions always, would bring up Pet Sematary at a Star Trek convention. She would always, be taken back and surprised, because those are completely two absolute separate genres. It's science fiction in space in the future, and this horror movie.
Right.
And, she always kept getting taken aback by people like, oh, by the way, here's my Pet Sematary, VHS copy. Do you mind signing this too? And she's like, why? Don't you want to sign some more Star Trek crap? No.
Yeah.
Typical convention, yeah.
Yeah. What was the hardest thing about trying to get this whole thing together?
Well, the hardest thing was probably just contacting all these sort of long-lost people, As as we've said before, getting in touch with just one person isn't that easy. You have to go through several lines to find people, and it's a lot of waiting to hear back from people and finding those original people to begin with.
I think also we're the only two guys working on this. I mean, we don't have a crew with us. We don't have somebody doing PR. We don't have someone fielding our schedules and setting up interviews. I mean, this is done the two of us. So
no interns or anything.
No interns, no paid interns, no unpaid interns. Mm-hmm. So we make our own coffee. So it's that has been a feat in and of itself. We're the
making your own coffee.
Yeah, nobody's fielding it for us.
Yeah, we both work full time, so this is something that we do in our side job, and this many people I'm sure would understand is basically another full-time job.
Getting interviews with all these different actors and the crew and everything. What out of everyone you interviewed, who would you have to say was your favorite?
Oh God,
is that like picking your favorite child? Yeah, I know. I asked that question.
Well, they're all so different. You know what I mean? I personally can't say that one in particular was my absolute favorite. I mean, we've had.
What about a favorite? Maybe not the favorite. Do you have one that stands out for you?
Stands out.
For me, it's the twins. The Ellie Creed was played by the daughter, played by twins, and not only were they a difficult interview to get, but once we got them, they were a blast. They were a lot of fun and enthusiastic, and we spent an afternoon with them in Manhattan. So, I mean, that was very cool. That is a favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm. Hanging out with twins is always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for me, I've just gotten such a kick out of, everyone's got different stories and different perspectives, and from A to Z, it's just been great. So I can't really say I have a favorite.
Having watched the film back in the when you guys were kids, we talked about earlier, and what really struck you about the film and as a whole that grasped onto you, that made you like terrified the most? Because it's a freaky deaky film.
Yeah, it is freaky deaky. I think especially for the time period in which it was made, you know, it wasn't the classic slasher film where you had a guy with a mask or you know, somebody sort of wielding a machete in the woods chasing campers. I mean, it was doing something a little bit different. I think it was, you know, the moral compass question comes into play in the film, and how you would deal with the loss of loved ones. And I just think, even as a kid, not understanding some of the core elements of the story, I think I could sort of recognize the fact that it was doing something a little bit different, and it was exhibiting horror in a different way, in a more of emotional, kind of a visceral way, and less in sort of like a, you know, a jumping out of the closet kind of way. And I think even compared to the films that were being made at the time, I mean, it isn't overly gory. There isn't a ton of blood. So I don't think it used that as sort of an exploitive way of getting the scares. I think it was doing something different. So for me, that's what made me latch onto it, and I think continue to appreciate it into adulthood, you know. I don't know, Justin, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely, you grabbed it.
Did you guys, one of my favorite things about the film, I didn't find out about until years later, as a, and you're a music fan and a musician. Do you guys cover in the documentary anything about the Ramones?
I think they're mentioned a few times. Yeah.
The Ramones, yeah, they're. Yeah.
Did you get to interview? Did you guys interview any of the remaining Ramones?
No,
the two that are left.
No, I think we briefly flirted with the idea, but then realized that
because that song was made for them with the
that's
movie,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's very cool, I think, but I think we maybe decided our efforts would be better spent elsewhere. But it comes up, yeah, for sure.
Actually, a couple of people mentioned the Ramones.
And
one of the Ramones was going to be at Comic-Con, by the way, in April before it got canceled and postponed.
Yeah,
and I think he was at Chiller.
He was. That's cool.
A couple of years ago.
He's got like a line of sauces and everything.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild. I don't know.
I would have loved to have met him. Yeah. What is the well, here's a question we always ask. What is your favorite horror movie of all time? You can't say Pet Sematary. You can't say anything by Stephen King either.
Wow. Justin, I'll defer that to you because I need to think about it.
Favorite of all time?
Horror movie, yeah.
Horror movie.
Well, I know your favorite movie is Back to the Future. Right?
Well, that was when I was a kid. Yeah, that made a very strong
Is Jaws considered a horror movie? Not.
Of course, Jaws. Yeah, it's always listed as like.
It is, isn't it?
Because the movie a horror movie has to be a movie that has affected your life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, some people say, "Oh, well, I like Friday the 13th," and that's fine, and or Halloween or Evil Dead 2 or something more recent like The House of a Thousand Corpses or The Devil's Rejects, but. I think a horror movie is a really horror movie if it's like effed you up and affected your life. And Jaws made people, just change the way people live in the water. The Exorcist made people question this whole, criminal empire and so on and so forth and yada yada yada. And goes on with the list of films that really just affected and changed your life or whatever because of what you saw.
I'm more of a guy who it's really difficult to nail down favorites with me. I don't have a favorite color or a favorite a meal, but, films I like for a lot of different reasons. What they meant to me as a kid, what they mean to me now. I have a lot of nostalgic reasons for liking films, too. So, I mean, as far as favorites go, and are ones that have messed me up, I remember going to, and I know this isn't considered anywhere close to a horror movie, but I remember going to see Fire in the Sky in the theater in '93, and I couldn't sleep for a week after that.
That's a messed up movie.
It is a messed up movie. And, I think the
especially
fact
when
that
he's like in the probing room.
Right. And I know a lot of that was, creative license as far as that goes. But, that's an example of a movie.
That movie screwed me.
And it's not considered a horror movie. But
no, but there's a horrible scene in that movie.
Absolutely.
Whatever. It's a freaky deaky film.
Well, also, you have to look at, the whole events leading up to that, just the fact that this guy's been missing for 5 days, you in your head, your imagination kind of fills in, where was he? What's been going on? And that's the kind of stuff that messed me up as a kid, that kind of unknown, unseen type of thing. Because I think that's kind of scarier than, anything you could actually possibly witness on the screen.
I mean, it's the same thing could be said for like Jurassic Park. It's not really considered a horror movie. You know, it's an action adventure movie.
Thriller.
But they talk about it on horror websites because of the monsters. You know, the dinosaurs in the movie are considered like monsters. I mean, they're monsters that actually existed. Freddy and Jason don't exist. Dexter doesn't exist. Yeah, we have serial killers or whatever, but nothing along that magnitude.
Sure.
And yeah,
that's what I mean. It's a lot of movies like that were a lot of
but
fun.
These things
back
actually
in the day.
existed once upon a time. They walked this planet. Whatever.
Sure.
They were the dominant species, and they were vicious. I mean, they weren't killers, but they would do what they needed to do to survive. You know, and the fact that they're living now amongst us or whatever.
Right.
They don't care about technology or anything like that. Your food, you're gonna die.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and
Evolution.
they're creepy looking things, especially the velociraptors. Tyrannosaurus Rex, giant puppy.
Totally.
Just stand still; it can't see you. Wow, ooh, so scary. Red light, green light. Ah, can't see me. What about you?
I'd have to say Jaws, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did it make you not want to go in the water?
No,
Sit there in the toilet and go, oh my god, there's water in the toilet.
I remember being scared, yeah, in like a swimming pool, feeling kind of like uneasy. So I guess that's enough of an effect to qualify that as a favorite. Yeah, I'll stick with that. That's my final answer.
I think I'm more scared of seaweed under my feet than I am of Jaws, even though Jaws did affect me in the same way.
All right.
What were some of the conditions you guys had to work through to the film, like the when you went to like the different locations where everything was filmed or whatever? Was it a lot of that movie is outside?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
You're talking about the challenges that we faced?
Snow, sleet, rain,
Mosquitoes,
black flies, which
bears.
are bears, dragons. No, but really all those up to the bears. We were like tromping around in really wild woods, and I mean, carrying equipment and worried about lighting and worried about trespassing and worry about this and talking to people and it, there's so many moving parts when it comes to shooting outside and shooting location stuff. So that's been a big challenge, and we've probably had a dozen trips up to Maine in all seasons with all weather, which present all kinds of their own unique issues.
Have you guys played the Pet Sematary cell phone game?
Didn't know there was one.
Yeah, I think it's on the iPhone.
Oh yeah.
You stand on the roof with a shotgun, shooting dead animals.
I got bored with it pretty quickly. I'll be honest.
Yeah, there's not much to it other than you literally
No, I
on
don't have
the
an
roof
iPhone,
and
so
dead
like,
animals
yeah.
are coming out of the pet cemetery at you. Bang! Bang!
It's cool.
Stay dead.
It's cool they thought of the film, but it's. I mean, I don't really get into the games on my phone. There's a Jaws one, and I get just as bored with that one. So
yeah, there's not really a lot you can do with that in terms of making it into a, maybe like a point and click type of thing.
Right.
But I don't see like taking the plot of the movie other than just taking, well, we're going to call the game Pet Sematary. It's going to be about the cemetery, and we'll make reference to the film and the second one. But other than that, it's going to be more like the second one, just try and start this whole other,
totally,
adventures of just, leave the damn place alone. Stop burying stuff in it every 5 minutes. Bury mom in it, bury dad in it, bury grandma. Let's bury some ashes in it. What's going to happen? We bury the urn of ashes in that cemetery.
Right.
Does the body have to be corporeal? I mean, did they ever explain that in the movie? Like, you guys talk to the writers of the film who wrote the script?
Well, Stephen King wrote the script.
Oh, he wrote the script? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's that question, because I know you guys said that you guys couldn't talk to King, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Other than the blessing. But you talked to Mary Lambert, so she still had some control of how the story flowed.
Sure.
Did you guys get a copy of the original script to read through?
Yeah.
See how much was different from that?
Not from Mary, but we were given copies of it. And it's very cool to read. It's interesting that Mary directed it because she's a very visual person. I mean, she had come off of doing a lot of music videos for MTV, so I think she had a very good eye for capturing things in a nonverbal sort of way, and I think that comes across in the film.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to go back to the thing about the story and the script, but now I just can't remember what my question was going to be. Okay. Back to that as soon as I remember it. Edit that out. The makeup in the movie I really loved. Did you guys get to? Did you guys meet the makeup people?
No, we haven't. We've been in touch with them, and we've talked to people about, how the makeup was done. But no, we haven't talked to them yet.
Because the biggest image in that movie stands out for me. Besides, the ghost zombie guy. I keep forgetting that character's name. Pascal is, of course, Denise Crosby coming back from the dead, and she's all like, and shit leaking out of her neck and everything, and she's oh my god, I want to throw up every time I watch that. Yeah. That is really, that would be really cool to be like, how the hell,
Actually, Denise does talk about that, how they achieved some of that effect,
Yeah, Denise discusses that in her interview, and we're working on having the makeup side of the film be represented in some way, so we'll see how that materializes.
Did you guys do research to see how many cats are named Gage? I mean, not Gage. What's
Church.
Church. How many cats are named Church out there? It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's
there's
a
whole
favorite.
database of like animal. People have registered their animals for town reasons or whatever. I think you can find the most commonly used names, whatever. And Church comes up there for gray cats.
I bet. Yeah,
interesting.
It's a genre fan favorite to name their. I'm sure there's a lot of dogs named Cujo.
Would you guys ever bury a pet in a pet cemetery?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have to now, right?
Yeah.
I think we're bound to it now.
I know when we were actually shooting the site, I buried quite a few mosquitoes in there. So if that counts on it. Yeah.
Well, I'll put you in the ground, give you a proper burial. It comes back as like this, it comes back the same way or whatever. It's like, damn it. Now it gives me diseases because it comes back from the dead. Do you guys believe in the supernatural? Do you believe in curses like this? Do you believe effed up stuff can happen if you don't abide by crazy old men?
I believe in karma, not so much supernatural.
But what did Dale's character do that was so wrong? I mean, he just wanted to bring his cat back to life, and then want to bring his kid back to life. I mean, did he do anything wrong at all? He didn't have an affair on his wife that we know about. He wasn't like running guns when he was younger or whatever. This is all just coming back to bite him in the ass.
Well, I think
maybe there's a whole prequel to Pet Sematary we need to.
I think where Lewis falls short is he tries to play God, right? I mean, I think that's his downfall, and I think he didn't listen to Judd when he should have.
Actually, they could make a prequel to Pet Sematary now that you think about it.
Though you could argue that Judd is really at fault for even exposing Lewis to.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's interesting that he's a doctor, if you think about it, because he treats all, the deaths in the movie, he treats them like with the rationale of a doctor. He just says, the experiment didn't work this time. Let me change the variables. And eventually I'll get it right.
What did Jed do before, he became just the crotchety old man next door?
I don't... Does it explain in the book? I mean, obviously it would go into greater detail.
What his character did?
What was his profession? What did he do before that? I mean, did he bury pets in the pet cemetery?
He sold shower curtain rings.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, was he experimenting with that pet cemetery, or was he just like, I finally got the family living next door now?
Well, no, but he was a local, and this cemetery was in his town, and he had heard about it, and he knew about it, and he knew the powers it held. So
so he got his comeuppance then for like waiting for this family to move in next door to like, oh great, now we got someone to experiment. They got a dead cat. Let's try it out.
Well, here's the interesting thing.
I've been too much of a wuss to do it myself.
Here's the interesting thing about the book, which they don't translate into the film, which is that Judd had a wife.
Yep.
In the book, and she suffers a heart attack.
I remember that.
And Lewis saves her. So, as a thank you, he decides that he'll help Lewis save his daughter's cat. As a thank you. So in the film, it looks as though he's just bringing them there to show them. In the book, it's a little fleshed out a little bit more, where he's thanking Lewis for saving the life of his wife, Norma.
I wonder why they didn't put that in the movie.
There's only so much you can fit in a film, you know what I mean? Especially with King. King's stories are so rich, the characters are rich, and they tend to be very long. I mean, look at it, in The Stand, and some of the other books are really, really long.
Oh,
so
yeah.
to write a
Under the Dome has to be 10 episodes. And then I've been putting everything in from the book. There have already been tons of complaints like, oh my God, the first episode didn't even have this happen and that happened.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to cut them slack. It's hard. I mean, it can't translate page for page, it's got to... You got to cut away some of the fat and cut away certain parts to make it work into a film. So that's probably why Norma's death in the book is translated on film with that of Susan Blumart, who plays Missy Dandridge, the maid, because in the book she doesn't die, she doesn't commit suicide. So
they still had that moment that they could.
That was that death.
Yeah.
That would start to show the machinations in work, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, that's a long-winded answer, but yeah.
The in Pet Sematary has like resonated the pop culture even into like kids cartoons, because they make reference to it every once in a while. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I do remember watching a cartoon once in a while. And they're like, "Oh, it's buried in the Pet Sematary." That's not a good idea. Or they do, and they comes back. The Simpsons. I mean, the Simpsons do everything, but they did a whole episode where Lisa's cat Snowball dies, and then they bury it in the Pet Sematary, and the whole entire zombie apocalypse happens on.
Yeah, no, it's true. Family Guy has spoofed it. I mean, it's
South Park. They spoofed it on Family Guy.
Yeah, South Park.
Mm-hmm. I remember South Park, but what did they do with it on Family Guy?
It's the episode when Peter's father dies, and there's like
the one he doesn't know is not his real dad, right? Before he goes off to Ireland.
To be honest, maybe, but anyway, he dies, and it's one of those quick scenes. You know, those. Peter says, "I know what we'll do. We'll bury him in the pet cemetery." And then Peter's standing over the grave with the shovel, and the dad pops up, and he's a zombie, and then he beats him again to death with the shovel. And then he's like, "All right, we'll bury him in a real cemetery." I mean, it's pretty good. I loved it. I remember, Miko.
That was the same episode he finds out, oh, wait, that's not my real dad.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it. I don't remember. But
yeah. Pet and Robot Chicken.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Robot Chicken did it.
Yeah. So it's made its rounds.
Well, I met Dale at Rock and Shock in 2011.
12.
Was it? He was there last year?
Yeah. We saw him. What was it? Was it August last year?
October.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Time flies, man.
Yeah. God, for some reason I thought it was the year before. And the actor Miko plays Gage.
Yep.
Was there. Was also in A New Nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yep. The one thing, while watching films like this to take away from is just the fascinating amount of detail that goes into how the film is made, because you get more when you guys do something like this than you do with bonus material sometimes. On a DVD, you get like some interviews, but you don't go into the meticulous filmmaking process sometimes.
Sure.
Sometimes you do. I mean, God, the Halloween movie has an entire 2-hour documentary on the entire. Well, we started it from there, and then it premiered, and we made all this money, and then they made too many god awful sequels. But with this film, you get tons of like real great stories of what I did, and this is and. Yeah. He was like this, and she was this fantastic, and things worked out, and things didn't work out, and the weather poured down on us when we were supposed to do the truck scene or the whatever, What was some of the funnier stories, the best personal stories you heard while interviewing all these people?
Funny stories.
Or the most personal stories?
Most personal stories.
Well, I mean... one of the people we interviewed who was really instrumental. You okay?
Yeah, it's bubble wrap.
Okay. One of the people that we interviewed that was really instrumental in getting a lot of the scenes made and kept up had a really warm moment with Fred Gwynn, who took her aside and kind of pointed her out to the rest of the crew and said, "Hey, I want you to take a look at the work that she did here. I want you to recognize it." And she was very fond of that moment, and was really happy that he recognized her hard work. Someone behind the scenes, getting recognized by one of the main characters like that, is pretty special to her. I'm sorry.
Who was it that he was pulling aside to recognize?
Her name is Carlene Hirsch. She was the lead greens on the crew.
Okay, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Did you get any? Did you guys sit down and both interview? Like every interview, did you guys were both there or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were both there.
Every single interview.
Mm-hmm.
Every single interview except a couple. We had to outsource a couple interviews.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm sure there are so many good stories, man, and I think we'll leave the best ones to the film.
Oh, of course.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And some of the ones that don't even actually even make it into the film. These are just things that we were told, off camera.
How much total hours of footage do you guys think you have? That not even cutting anything.
Not even editing anything?
Yeah. How much do you guys think you have?
What do you think, Justin? Justin's the keeper of the footage, so he would know more.
Because like the Friday documentary coming out, they didn't edit anything for 11 hours.
Yeah, we probably have a good 24 or 30 hours. I'd say.
You should put that all in there.
we have fans say that on the Facebook page. Yeah. We've had people say that.
All the extra crap that you just don't even want to put on the DVD because that costs, extra money to get a larger format disc, Blu-ray, whatever it is you're going to do. Just stick it on YouTube. Be like, all right, so all the really meticulous coughing and swearing.
All the stuff that diehards need to see.
Hold on, I need a cigarette.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And of course we talked about it a little bit in for everyone who wants a larger focus of this, whole sit down, you can buy their DVD when it comes out in October. Is that what you're planning, guys?
No, I mean we're hoping to finish the documentary this year. We have no street date or anything like that.
So to be determined before the apocalypse happens.
Hopefully before the second coming of Christ.
Yes.
We'll see.
We will have a much more extensive interview with these two gentlemen on the New England Horror Filmmakers book, and we touched a little bit upon my also love-hate relationship with the movie Pet Sematary II. Why do you think people have a mixed reaction to that? Other than the fact it's a sequel to a King story. I mean, the last one I think they ever did was Return to Salem's Lot, and that's
right. Yeah. You want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think people just, with a lot of sequels that came out, between the 70s and late 80s, I would say, a lot of people just have more of an affinity for, the original, the classic. I don't have too much insight into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the second one, like we talked about before, I think it was a little bit focused more on trying to get the scares and less about that sort of like the emotional aspect of the film. I think, the filmmakers for the first one really, really wanted to mess people up in terms of like with some of the scenes and some of the storyline. So I think with you don't have that. You don't have that in the second film. You have more of sort of like a very kind of traditional horror film, a film that it plays by the rules a little bit more. It's a little more predictable, I think, in terms of you're not really hit with anything that's like, wow, I didn't see that coming, whereas you certainly have that with the first film.
Like when Gage is
that's the biggest example.
I mean, unless you read the book, you didn't know it was coming. Mm-hmm. Spoiler for anybody.
Yeah, that's definitely like the biggest example I can think of. But
everyone else is just kind of like, oh, well, they got killed off because they were, annoying, and they just didn't really seem like to have, And
I wonder if even subconsciously fans that saw the film could recognize that it was not shot in Maine. There were, at least for me,
so much.
At least for me as a horror fan, I always love seeing people from past films, past versions, like when characters come back and there's more of kind of a thread between the two. They reference them in the second one, but you don't really see anybody. So I think maybe
is there one person though that is in both films?
No,
the vet?
No.
The vet's different too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
The vet makes reference to the Creed family and the town, but
I know that, but I thought maybe the vet was the same actor or something.
I wonder if it would have
other
been...
than Mary Lambert, there's nobody else.
I think there were some people on the crew.
The crew.
But I wonder how it would have done on its own, as it, if it had not been a sequel, if it had just been like its own kind of a film, if it would have been better received. But
call it something else, change up even like the location, the mid-neck.
Yeah, I just think it would have been. Yeah, I think it might have been.
Because then everyone would have called it, it's a Pet Sematary ripoff, and
yeah, well, I'm saying even if Pet Sematary hadn't existed and that were just a film. Something else, maybe it would have been, because there are some great moments. Clancy Brown is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's really the highlight.
Yeah, the dog was terrifying. So
that scene where Eddie Furlong sits up in bed, he's having a nightmare and he sits up in bed, and that white dog with its like glowing eyes is staring at him.
staring
It's
in the
rocking
window, yeah.
in the rocking chair, just staring at him while he sleeps. I mean, I remember that freaked me out as a
Yeah.
kid. Man. So,
I don't remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
so there are some good moments in there, and
maybe it's gonna come out on Blu-ray. I don't think it's on Blu-ray.
it's not on Blu-ray. You can pick it up on Laserdisc at your nearest video store.
I think it's on DVD.
Do they still have
isn't
video
it?
stores?
No, I totally messed. Yeah, it's on DVD.
It is on DVD.
And it was
bonus
released-
material on.
It was released. It was released in the UK as a bonus pack with the first film. You can get it as a box set,
Oh,
which is
okay.
kind of cool. They never released that in the United States, but
I think the first film also has a riff tracks on the riff track website
does,
for
yeah.
it. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, it is good.
Then
Yeah.
you can poke out everything. It's like, no, the second one needs it more.
It's true. Yeah,
So if you can't really watch the second one, and again, I've got first half of the movie, first quarter of the movie I love, and then I don't really love it that much anymore. But that movie is prime for riff tracks. The first one, I'm like, I mean, I guess you can make a riff tracks out of anything, but the first one, I mean, I guess I need to download it or at least watch a snippet on YouTube to see how much I love it. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's not a movie that writes out up there like the Twilight films that need to be riff tracks in order to
Right.
suffer through them.
sure.
Just because the acting is so terrible,
Yeah.
and I just
Yeah, a friend of mine
man, oh
sent me
man,
that.
I've tried to talk to 13 and 14-year-old girls, interview at the theater, and their moms. They're like, why do you watch this film versus something that's fantastic like Pet Sematary? I've said, oh, and there's, what horror movie do you recommend? I'm like, oh, Pet Sematary or Dracula. Pet Sematary always comes into conversation with me to people.
Very cool.
We thank you for that.
Yeah, now I'll mention the documentary. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you should watch it. Then watch this whole
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
2.5 hour documentary.
Kind of a smooth
It's
little
even longer
segue
than
there,
the film
yeah.
itself.
I know, right?
Right.
But this is, as you guys are fans of the film, this is by the fans for the fans.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe as well as like sometimes these films don't get the attention they deserve in terms of like when it comes out on DVD, they may get 20 minutes of bonus material. I mean, I think the Friday films, I keep going back to that as a reference. Each one of those, I want to say maybe the first 10 films or whatever don't have a lot of meticulous amount of bonus material. Freddy vs. Jason did, but
That was one of the reasons we
exceptions to
jumped
that.
on this because, there isn't a lot out there. And, whenever you bring it up and stuff, people really, they have a kind of a soft spot for this movie. And I think they kind of clamor for, more material to be out there. So it is a unique, it's a unique venture. It's a unique idea.
Was there, when you guys interviewed people, was there anybody who talked about how they really weren't sure if this was the film they wanted to jump on right away, but after then they read the book and they were like, oh my God, maybe I should do this, and they were like, thank God I didn't turn it down or anything like that? Or is there anybody that they presented it to before they went to like Dale and Denise and said, hey, I don't know who was big I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, would you want to do this film? And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. And then turn around and go, oh my God, I wish I had done Pet Sematary.
Well, I know that George Romero was supposed to direct.
That's cool.
He had worked on Creepshow with King prior, and he had been committed to Monkey Shines and couldn't do it. So
I
they
never
had
saw
to-
Monkey Shines.
So they had to get someone else, and they got Mary. So I don't think that was a case where he said I don't want to do it, but I think they were looking somewhere else before Mary Lambert. So that's an instance of that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Because that's always interesting. Like Tom Selleck was supposed to be Indiana Jones,
right.
and then
Yeah, no,
they
that
actually
stuff
have
is
footage of him playing.
that stuff's very cool. I think it's funny because so much of the cast in Pet Sematary are local Maine actors and actresses, and I think they were jumping at the bit to get any kind of a role in a Stephen King film. So, I think if anything else, I think they were fascinated to see that they're still remembered for this film, even if they had a small part in it. So I think in many ways we received a lot of positive feedback when we would approach somebody about an interview or about being a part of this.
And a lot of people, this was their first interview ever about this film.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because the Paramount, put out the special edition DVD of Pet Sematary in 2006, and it had some great little vignettes and some behind-the-scenes stuff and
Commentary by Mary.
some commentary. Yeah, and they reused the same special features for the Blu-ray.
Which a lot of people were disappointed with. They're like, oh, well, the film looks fantastic. They cleaned it up more, but
It does look fantastic.
why am I buying bonus material on that type of fan unless I don't already own it?
So I think that was a huge, as Justin already mentioned, I feel like the documentaries for Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween and Hellraiser have been exhausted. I mean, I don't know what else there is left to say about those films.
Oh, God, yeah.
And not to say that they're not worth discussing, but I think that a lot of films have fallen by the wayside, and I think PET is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean, and the things with this like extensive, like, again, the Friday documentary, your documentary coming out, whatever, you get to talk with the people who never get interviewed. I mean, you get Jason, you get all his main kills, but then there's all these other people in the background that actually had something else to do. They couldn't get a hold of them to pump out a deluxe edition DVD on time.
Right.
And you guys are doing the same thing now. You're getting hold of like all these other characters, like the truck driver. He's not in the DVD, but the guy kills Gage. It's a pretty big important thing.
Right.
I don't remember who on the 2006 DVD they didn't get to interview. I know they did get Dale and Denise and Mary, but I don't know who else.
Denise wasn't actually. She wasn't.
She wasn't in that. Yeah,
she wasn't
right.
in the 2006
so,
edition.
I mean, yeah, you got something that nobody.
Yeah. So we're
and also
excited,
the cover. I think the
about
cover of that DVD is terrible. It's an eye or something.
Oh, the 2006 one.
Yeah.
So we're excited for that because, as you mentioned, we're fans doing it for fans, and this is something that we would want to watch. This is something that we would pay to have. This documentary. So I think
absolutely
we've always kept that in mind, and I think that's helped us.
Yeah, as fans, we've said, what would we want to see? What fascinates us about this? And really, that's kind of the angle we've been taking.
What do you guys want to say in your closing remarks about the film and about the ending?
Our film or the actual film?
Your documentary.
Well, I'll just say that we have a trailer for the documentary that is not available to the public as of now, but it's premiering today, actually, July 13th, at the Viscera Film Festival in Los Angeles, which is a film festival dedicated to women in the horror genre. Okay. Mary Lambert received a appreciation award last year, and Denise will be introing the doc for us today.
Oh, they did one of those in Somerville last October.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
Denise will be.
This is science fiction.
Denise will be giving the introductory remarks for the trailer today, and it'll also be playing at the Massachusetts Independent Film Festival next month, as well as the Calgary Horror Convention up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada next month as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I just want to plug that. Justin, any other?
Facebook page is...
Yeah, Facebook page. Facebook.
Yeah, check us out on Facebook.
Untold. Yeah, and...
just go to... just type in Unearthed and Untold, and you'll pop it right up.
Yeah,
don't type in Unearthed, you'll come with 30,000 other pages, but type in Unearthed and Untold. Just type in Pet Sematary. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of Facebook pages out there for Pet Sematary, so...
No, unfortunately not. So that, yeah, you'll find us there, and as you know, we update it fairly regularly. We try to keep content fresh, so check it out.
And you guys are in the Wicked Bird Media documentary coming up.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Which we're excited about. We haven't yet been interviewed, but...
Oh, okay.
But it's set. We're
TBA.
We're going to be part of that, which is very, very cool.
And you guys will be at Rock and Shock.
We're trying to, we're hoping to have a table at Rock and Shock to help promote.
Even if you don't have it completed by then, you should have a big whole,
We'd like to, yep.
Keep playing the trailer on a loop.
Sure.
That's exactly it. Yeah, we'd like to do that.
That's what we're hoping for.
If you're in the Worcester area in October, come say hello.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming in the studio.
Thanks, Chris.
We'll broadcast this tomorrow night.
Great.
Killer.
Awesome. Cool.